shout out to our sponsors, Watchman Cigars, Operation Decisive Victory, Webmarize, and Red Hill Brewing. Without you guys, this episode would not be possible. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, while you, the listener, are invited to come up on the front porch, grab a beverage, and set a spell. We've got a great show lined up for you, as always. But before we begin, let me introduce you to our starting lineup. Running the Facebook Live and the YouTube Live, it is Ryan.
Hey, everyone.
And at the control deck, our producer, Brian, as always.
Hey.
And of course, I be your illustrious host, Biggin. And how about you? Producer Brian, where can our folks find us on the socials?
We are on the Facebooks at Southern Fried Philosophy, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at SFP Radio. Email us at sfpradio@gmail.com. And you can always find us on Patreon at patreon.com/SFP Radio. We would love some support. We're almost done with the chicken sandwiches and I'm out of money. So you can always find us streaming on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and the TuneIn app.
If you were watching on Facebook Live, we're doing things a little bit different. We do have our special guest, Doug Knoll, on the line now to be cognizant of his time. He's got a class to go to right after this. We're going to go ahead and do the interview now. And then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and do the rest of the show. In the meantime, though, if you listen on podcast, you won't even know the difference because all this stuff will be edited out. So there we go. And so producer Brian, roll that music for me.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, so our special guest, Doug Knoll, he is an award-winning author, speaker, trainer. After 22 years as a trial lawyer, Mr. Knoll became a peacemaker and a mediator. Today, he helps people solve problems and conflicts and teaches others to do what he does. He is an adjunct professor of law at the Pepperdine School of Law, Strauss Institute, where he teaches decision-making under uncertainty conflict. Mr. Knoll, thank you so much for coming on the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast.
Yeah, you can call me Doug.
All right.
When somebody calls me Mr. Knoll, it reminds me of back when I was a trial lawyer and the judge is going to yell at me or something.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Knoll.
Mr. Knoll. So just to make sure, at no point did you ever meet Matlock. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Man, I love that show so much. Always with the gray suit. It's like the Columbo of lawyers.
Right. Not quite real life.
Oh, man. Because between that and Law and Order, that's about my law degree that I've got. Like,
there you
I
go.
watched those two shows, and I object, Your Honor, and that's all I got.
That's all you need.
So, Mr. Knoll, Doug, so 22 years after a trial lawyer, you gave that up and decided to help people de-escalate de-escalate situations and stop conflict. Tell us about that whole process. Why did you leave that to do that?
Well, the short story is that I took up the martial arts in my mid-30s while I was in my trial career, and eventually became a secondary black belt in a northern Chinese animal style. Very vicious form of street fighting. And after I was awarded my second degree, my teacher called me in and said, I'm not going to teach you anymore until you learn Tai Chi because you're too arrogant, you're too full of yourself. You're a trial lawyer, now you're a second degree. I mean, you can do some serious damage. So you got to go learn Tai Chi. And don't come back until you master Tai Chi.
Okay,
well, of course, that was a death sentence because you never mastered Tai Chi. But I did start studying Tai Chi. And first of all, it turns out Tai Chi is even more violent and vicious than the Shoshu forms that I had learned. All martial arts comes from Tai Chi, and in Tai Chi you see the kata, the long flowing movements. Every one of those movements is a killing blow, called Dim Mak.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody knows about this. Unless you're a martial artist and you start studying Tai Chi as a martial art, all you're going to get is the exercise part of it. You're not going to understand the underlying physics and energy stuff. So that was pretty intriguing. But Tai Chi has two paradoxes. The first is the softer you are, the stronger you are. And the second is the more vulnerable you are, the more powerful you are. So soft to be strong, vulnerable to be powerful. Did not compute. You guys are probably too young to remember punch cards, but when I learned programming back in college, back in the 60s, we had these punch cards. They were called Hollerith cards. Do not bend, spindle, or mutilate. It was like a card was spitting out of my brain saying, this is a mutilated card. We can't read it. But, I practiced and slowly mastered Tai Chi, began to master it, became a teacher, and one day I was in a courtroom some years later, and the thought came to me, what the heck am I doing in here? It just, all of a sudden, I began to question what I was doing. And after that trial, I had a river trip planned. I do a lot of whitewater, and we had a big trip planned up in Idaho. So we went up there and spent the 10 days on the Maine salmon, and I thought about my career up to that point. And at the end, I concluded that I really only helped 5 people. 5 people came into the legal system and came out better off than they went in. And everybody else, no. And I said, I don't want to go another 30 years and say that I've only helped 20 or 30 people. That's just not